welcome everyone to the special meeting of the Planning, House and Environment Services Committee on Friday, the 18th of October. Can I remind everyone present that the meeting will be recorded and the recording will be subsequently available for public listening, presumably on DVD in time for Christmas if it's that entertaining. Can I ask if there are any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors McClung, Carruthers, Collins, Geddes, Peacock and Tuckfield.
Thanks very much, Rona. Are there any declarations of interest? Sorry.
Just give Councillor Carson's.
I didn't see their patch. It's difficult to tell sometimes up here, isn't it? Do we have any declarations of interest? No? Okay, can we turn to item 3, the minutes of the PHES committee on the 10th of September. Are members happy that's a true record? Do we have a mover and seconder?
I'll move that.
Okay.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much. Everybody happy? Yeah. Sorry, Graham.
Just clarification. Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, Councillor McClung's not here. He was the one that was quite vocal on the subject. The residue of the Stranraer regeneration money, i.e. the 2.4 million, is it still due to come before the November meeting of the Wigton Area Committee? Councillor McClung was quite outspoken on that subject and said that when the paper came forward, we would have clear figures of what was left, plus the projects to be considered. And my recollection, and looking round the room, was that it was to come before the November meeting of the Wigton Area Committee. It's not minuted here, but it was discussed at length in the September meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that inquiry, Councillor Foster. It's our intention to bring a report to the December meeting of the Wigton Area Committee. There are a number of issues that we are finalising, including an application to the flag for funding, which will, if successful, will obviously free up further money. And we want all these ducks to be in a row before we report. So if members are happy, I would like to bring that to the December meeting of the Wigton Committee.
If you come with more money, Mr. Speedy, I'll wait till March.
Okay, I'll put it down for March then. Okay, everybody happy with the minutes yet?
What is FLAG, Mr. Speedy?
My apologies for using an acronym. It's the EFF funding, the European Fisheries Fund, and the FLAG is the group that agrees, the Fisheries Local Action Group, and it agrees the various applications and bids, etc.
We obviously appointed 2 members to that at the full council last week. Everybody happy, Patsy?
Just, I was looking to see what date the December meeting was, and on the frontis of our things here, it's got 2 meetings in November, and I wonder if that's a typo for the 20th of November. Should it be December? It's just, I would like to put things in my diary, that's all.
Yes, there's 2 meetings in November. The 12th is our normal PHES, and we have a special PHES on the 20th to look at the outcomes from our service reviews. Thank you.
Okay, so we're happy with the minutes of the 10th of September. Can we turn to item 4, the minutes of the House and Subcommittee of the 10th of September? Jeff?
Yeah, happy to move the minutes.
Thanks.
Happy to second that.
Okay, seconded by Jim. Everybody happy with the minutes? Okay, thanks. Okay, can we turn to item number 5? Obviously, members agreed to hold a special meeting today to discuss the Planning, Environment Services and DGFirst strategic commissions for 2012-13. Alistair, do you have anything to add to the report?
Nothing to add, Chair, at this stage. I would just advise members that I have a number of colleagues here to help answer the detailed questions. Nick Jackson, who's the Service Manager, Neighbourhood Services West for DGFirst. Greg Blaney, who's the Service Manager for Environment, Planning Environment Services. Charles Clemmy, who's the Senior Manager for Road Service, DGFirst. James McLeod, Service Manager Infrastructure, Planning and Housing, Environment Services, and Stephen Herriott, Head of Infrastructure Commissioning, Planning and Environment Services.
Okay, thanks very much. I plan to open it up to members, but with your indulgence, I think probably the best way to deal with it would be to take each of the commissions one at a time. The first one is on page 19 of the appendix. And I basically will take them one at a time. Are people quite happy to go through it one at a time? That avoids us jumping between public conveniences and road maintenance, etc. Okay. Okay, so the first one is on page 19 and 20, and it's on providing a waste collection service. Any members got any points they want to raise or any questions on that one? Ronnie?
Just one comment. In the net cost of household waste collection, household premises, the target was £63, and we've got a good come back on that at £50. Does that mean we've got loads of money now, does it?
The value there, in terms of the historic value, that's the £63 for the cost of the provision of the service. And probably best hand to Greg and Nick just to go through the detail on that in terms of the value being much lower. To a certain extent, it's sometimes to do with when payments fall in what calendar years, financial years. But I'll hand over to Greg on that one.
Yeah, Councillor Nicholson, the reduction is largely down to the new routes that we'd implemented last year, along with a new fleet, which we took on about a year ago now. So they have we've made savings through the efficiencies we've got through those two issues mainly.
Happy with that answer? Do you want to come back?
No, that's fine. He didn't answer my second bit. We've got loads of money.
I'm responsible for the budget now, so I'll keep an eye on that. Jeff?
Thank you, Chair. On page 21, the waste electrical and electronic equipment recycling, does that actually cover does the money obtained from the recycling actually cover the cost of the service?
They're keen to take the waste collection one in 19 to 21st, if that's okay. Anybody got any other questions on the waste collection service? Ronnie?
Thanks, Chair. It's the last bullet point or box. Complete the report on a neighbourhood service, customer service. The survey is due to be carried out. I just wondered if that was a full survey or a sample survey, so it would only be, is it right across the region or is it just certain areas?
Chair, yeah, these periodic customer surveys are carried out. We're due to carry out a survey towards the end of this year, and outcome of that will be reported back to a later committee.
Yeah, I know that. What I was asking is it a sample survey or is it every household that's surveyed?
It's very much a sample survey.
George?
Thanks, Chair. It's just on page 19, just a wee explanation at 1.2, number of confirmed service failures concerning, target 100 region value, and then it goes on to the various old districts or whatever they are. Could a wee bit of explanation, Annandale and Eskdale, 10, Eskdale 38, Wigton 9, are these, what are service failures now?
Chair, it's where we've failed to be or been unable to collect a wheelie bin, essentially, or collect from one of the domestic premises. Most of these service failures are down to road closures where services have had roads dug up and we've been unable to get to the bins.
Chair.
Graham?
Chair, if you want. Okay, thank you. It's 2.3 on page 19, number of households receiving a wage collection assisted pull-out. Presumably that's where elderly disabled people, they go in and physically take the wheelie bin out to the refuse vehicle. You're going to be in and out of an awful lot of houses more often with the new service. Presumably those who qualify for this service at the moment, once we get into multiple box collection, the bin collectors will be in the house more often than the spouse will be.
Yes, I think it's one thing that we are aware of, and certainly that the existing customers who are on the pull-out service will automatically qualify for the box pull-out.
Ronnie, do you want to come in? No, okay. Any other questions on the first one? Patsy?
It is to do with, and it's just above that, it's to develop potential collection systems, and it is to look forward because you are going to be rolling out your new zero waste collection system in Wigton as of the new year, is my understanding, although I think that's been put back to springtime, really, is it? Yeah. Have you got your systems in place yet? I mean, for how you're going to do that? Because the pull-outs are an example, you know, there's going to be a lot more of that needed, and I just wonder how you're getting on with that.
We're working very much in the route planning phase at the moment, where we're developing the new routes for the collection services of both the food waste and the dry recyclate. At the moment, we're planning to roll out the food waste collection service in Wigton area from April next year. The dry recyclate collection, we're planning to roll that out probably a couple of months later, just to get the food waste implemented before we kick off with the main changes, which is the alternate weekly collections between the dry recyclate and the residual waste collections. There's a lot of work, a lot of meetings, and a lot of preparation work at the moment. We've recently, colleagues in B&E have taken on a project manager for the service. We're taking on a technician as of Monday next week, who will be looking very much at the operational aspects of what we need to do in terms of changes, farm road ends, and a lot of the other problematic areas, shall we say, where we need to sort of get more detailed plans in place. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes at the moment, and certainly as of next month, there's a few meetings with community councils in the Wigton area, which we're discussing with the public on a bit more one-to-one basis.
Okay, any final questions on the first commission? No? Okay, can we turn to page 21 to 23, which is providing a waste reuse and recycling and recovery service. Jeff, I think you had a point on this one.
Yeah, it's just 2.4, the waste electrical and electronic equipment recycled. How does presumably there's an income stream from that, how does that compare to the cost of providing the service?
There's no actual income stream for it. What we have is a producer compliance scheme who go around all our recycling centres and transfer stations and collect all the material and take that away for recycling. Where we save in terms of cost is reduced payments to Shanks, because we do not pay a unitary charge on that material.
Come back in, Jeff.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I, like a lot of other people, got a leaflet through my door the other week from some commercial company within, I think it was Dumfries, offering a call-out service whereby you could recycle your electronic equipment directly to them.
I assume they may have the same scheme that the council has, that these materials are taken away free of charge. In terms of revenue, the sort of scrap metal element is still within the PFI contracts. There is a revenue stream there, but there is a cost in disposing of recycling fridges, televisions, etc. There is some small wee mobile phones where there is an income stream. The WEED directive is currently being recast and new regulations are coming into place, but we're not aware of any significant changes, although we believe there may be an option to bring that service back in-house rather than through a producer compliance scheme.
Ian?
Thanks, Chair. Can I ask, first of all, what the timescales for the closure of Goldnock up in the North Rins? And also, are you anticipating any financial pressures on the Shanks PFI contract, given the new waste strategy, and what are you doing to mitigate if that were the case? In other words, trying to perhaps attract waste in from other areas.
We're currently progressing a zero waste variation with Shanks to take cognizance of all the changes. That variation will be to ensure that Shanks are no worse off through that variation process. We're not anticipating any budget pressures through that process. With respect to Galdenock, it will close once we have the new zero waste park up at Stranraer up and ready. Construction started on that site, and we anticipate that could be ready by towards the end of March.
Could I just add that obviously it's a negotiation we're continuing to have with Shanks and Galdenock. They obviously are tied in there with various leases, etc. And it's just matching up how they can shake loose of their responsibilities there to move elsewhere. So that's a negotiation that will be ongoing.
We'll come back in, Ian.
When you say that, well, first of all, when you say you're not anticipating any budget pressures, does that mean that you fully expect that you'll be able to meet the required targets, and there are no foreseen circumstances under which that wouldn't be the case? And secondly, can I just ask you, Director, when you mentioned moving, what does that mean?
Well, the question you alluded to was the closure of Galdenock. Is that the question you asked?
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Shanks.
Greg answered that we are building new infrastructure down in Stranraer, but Shanks have obligations where they sit at the moment at Galdenock, and they have their own issues to shake loose these obligations. And we don't want Shanks operating in two areas, because that would be a potential budget pressure. So it's a negotiation that's ongoing.
Okay, Patsy.
Thank you. It says here that you maximise the production of electricity, and you've achieved that and got £136,000 in royalties. Is that the maximum? Or is that just the starters? I mean, would you expect to improve upon that over the years, or is that as much as we're ever going to get?
Yeah, I mean, the gas plant's been operating now for about 6 years. So in terms of gas production, that's reducing because we're not using the landfill site, and therefore the methane production is reducing, so there's less money available. What we did last year was we installed a new leachate system to remove leachate from some of the gas vents to allow the gas to come through the site. But revenues will continue to decrease, but I mean, that has been budgeted for.
Okay, Jim.
Hey, thanks, Chair. It's on page 22, the second last box on the page. Maintain the 5 former landfill sites in accordance with the contract specification. I thought we had taken ownership of these landfill sites so that we could best control the long-term future of these, and also manage the implications of methane, etc., etc. Am I to understand that we have now passed ownership of these landfill sites to Shanks or some third party? I'd also be interested to know where the 5 sites are.
No, unfortunately we've not passed ownership, but Shanks undertake restoration works, maintenance works, environmental monitoring. The sites are at St Mary Street, Sanker, Gatelaw Bridge, Thornhill, Black's Plantation, Whithorn. We have Course Hill at Annan, and the remaining one is Locker Moss, Dumfries. We are the licence holder for those sites and continue to be, but Shanks are responsible for certain aspects of maintenance, environmental monitoring, etc.
So Shanks now operate under contract to us for the maintenance of these?
Yeah, the sites are closed, so they're not operational as such.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions, Ronnie? Yeah.
I've got 4 questions, Chair. 4 simple ones that you'd expect from me. The first one is, none of this data has been audited by SEPA, so that's the first question. The second question follows on from what Patsy was on about, and it's according to this here, we've produced nearly 4 million kilowatt hours of energy, and you give a value of 136. Well, 4 million kilowatt hours is quite a lot. So I just wonder how the two figures relate to each other. The other question was, the last box, it's on page 23, establish consortium for reuse and repair network. And my final question is, how much does the uplift of heavy goods, heavy items, you know, we still run that scheme, it used to be £10 to pick up a wardrobe or, you know, heavy stuff. It was a service that the council ran, or somebody ran. I just wondered what the income from that was and if we're still doing it. Thanks, Chair.
Firstly, SEPA have yet to verify the data, and the reason for that is we're moving from financial year reporting to calendar year reporting. So we anticipate that about 11-12 data will not be verified until December this year. Sorry.
Do you expect much variance in
No. I mean, SEPA have seen the data, and there's been some questions sent backwards and forwards. So there's unlikely to be any significant variation. It'll be less than 1%, I would think, at most. In terms of, I suppose, the ratio between the energy produced and the income received, that's part of a contract agreement with our Energy Natural Power. They provide the service, they provide all the equipment, and they pay the council a royalty for providing that service, and that's how that mechanism works. Clearly, more power produces a bigger income or a bigger royalty payment for the council.
Indulge me. So how much kilowatt hour do we get paid? It must be 000 something to get to 136,000. If you've got 4 million kilowatt hours, there must be so much per kilowatt hour that, you know, as somebody that pays an electric and gas bill, I know how much kilowatt hours I'm paying for. So I just wondered what the ratio was there.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 or 4 different payments. There's one for actual electricity sale to the grid, one for recycled rocks, renewable obligation credits, levy exempt credits. They're all, there's a pence per kilowatt. I can't give you the exact value today, but I can provide that later if you wish. Yeah. Next question was reuse consortium. We have, I would say, an agreement with the parties now to provide that service. What they now need to do is provide funding to build the reuse shops at the Zero Waste Parks, Dumfries and Galloway, and that they're very busy with that, submitting funding applications to take that project forward.
Just another wee point. So that's outside the Shanks contract. This is a new consortium that we're setting up.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. Bulky uplifts, what's the price?
The price is round, I don't have the figure exactly at the moment. It's about £10.85, I think, at the moment, or thereabouts. But we still do provide the service, and we will continue to do. It's part of our statutory duties under the controlled waste regulations.
And the income for that will be reported when?
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry, the income from that would be reported to here or somewhere else?
As far as I'm aware, the income isn't reported. However, we can obviously give you the figures very easily on the number of collections that we carry out.
That'd be useful because we need to know exactly what we're bringing in and what we're paying out. You know, how balanced budgets and that. And as members, I'm sure we'd all like to see all the information. So if we get that information, that'd be brilliant. Thanks.
I presume, obviously, that would be something primarily going to DGFirst. Obviously, our main focus is on the strategic role of this committee, and a lot of that will get reported to the members that are here from DGFirst Management Committee, who will look at the operational side of things. Okay. Ronnie, did you want to come in? Ronnie Nicholson.
Thanks, Colin. I'll put back to the key performance indicator in 1.3. The net cost of refuse disposal per premise, we're looking for a target of 115 going down, and it's up at 121.82, £6.82 a difference. Is there any special reasons for that, or how did that
Excuse me. The reasons are we received 2 invoices for insurance costs in one financial year, so there was a double hit there. But we also experienced higher contract inflation than anticipated. And in terms of the diversion from Shanks, although they met their contractual targets, we had anticipated slightly higher diversion and therefore lower landfill tax costs. So that's the reasons behind the increased higher than cost than budgeted, I suppose. However, the PFI contracts over a long period, and as such, inflation goes up and down. And in terms of diversion, we're intending to increase diversion through the zero waste plan.
And I would just add to that, Leader, that landfill tax increases every year as well. So the KPI is going to have a tendency to want to increase each year, but we balance that off by diverting more waste away from landfill to try and keep the indicator either at the same level or a lower level.
Okay, all the questions on that, Commission? Yep. Okay, can we turn to page 24 to 28? Sure there won't be any questions on this one. The Roads Maintenance Management Service Commission. Ian?
Thanks, Chair. Can you tell me a little bit more about the 1.1, the customer satisfaction percentage score on roads maintenance? How exactly are you sampling satisfaction? And I would have to say at this point, I think there's been, certainly from my experience, a noticeable improvement in the quality of road repairs. I think that's both a tribute to the work of the men, but also I think the move away from the policy of patch and whack, which quite frankly was the most demoralising method of road repair, both for road users and I guess for the people who were doing it. And also I believe that the equipment that was purchased, the hot boxes and stand-up road cutters, has made quite a difference to the way in which the men are able to do these road repairs. But if I could just come back anyway about the sampling, how are you doing that, and when are you likely to get some kind of indication of whether there's been any change in the satisfaction levels?
The customer satisfaction data, Councillor, is it's unfortunate that we didn't collect as much, or we didn't collect enough data in terms of number of samples that gave us a meaningful indicator for many of the performance indicators within the strategic commissions as a whole. So quite often in the strategic commissions here for last year, we're saying that the data wasn't collected. We had gone down the route for a number of the commissions of actually using DG Direct to do telephone surveys, but we feel that the number and the quality of the data that we got back from that process didn't warrant us actually using the information. What we have done is subscribe to a national highways and transportation survey. There's a large survey exercise that many English highway authorities participate in, and just this summer we in Scotland were one of 5 Scottish roads authorities that participated in this survey, and that will feed, that data has just come back, it's just been published this week, and we will work that into the area committee reports that we're now just about to start to prepare to report on performance for the first 6 months of the year on the strategic commissions. So where in the commissions here in the data for last year, for 12-13, we see that there's gaps where we're able to plug most of those gaps with this new survey data that is quite comprehensive. 12th of November, FES committee, I'm bringing back a report that will do a refresh on the commissions for the next 3-year period, as well as taking into account the comments in Appendix 2 of this report from the area committees. We're working in a lot more of this customer satisfaction data, and it breaks it down in a bit more detail. So we have data in winter service, we'll have data on carriageway condition, footway condition, there's even data on street cleanliness, as well as data that's quite useful for our colleagues on the transport side in terms of the public transport. So although it's missing there, we're looking very much in terms of the area committee reports that we're currently looking at starting to prepare for December, that information will be there and populated for the members.
George?
Thanks, Chair. It's page 27, 2.8 and 2.9. I wonder if we could just get a wee bit of clarification on what what that actually means, that, you know, especially at 2.9 value of third-party insurance claims settled and repudiated. Surely we're needing these figures split down into what has been settled and what has been repudiated, because the way they are at the moment, they really don't mean a lot.
Chair, this is something that we've been discussing as officers, and we were considering some amendment to these figures, and Councillor Prentice does have a point. I've got a note here of what I think that would probably propose this forthcoming year for the commissions that we're putting forward. And if we could put forward the number of claims in total, the number that we've settled, the number that we've repudiated, and then a total value. I think if that was acceptable, I think that would maybe clarify just exactly where we are. The claim situation, as you can imagine, it's a bit of a moving feast, and whilst we might say at the end of a financial year, those were the number of claims within that year that have been settled, for example, there could be more that are still open and are being settled as the year progresses. So we can only give you a snapshot in time, which is an indication of the current position, but if members were happy with that, we could make that alteration.
Members quite happy with that? That sounds a sensible way forward, yeah. Jeff?
Just for clarification, roads within housing estates, what category do they fall in? Is that the unclassified road network?
The road classification is a kind of historic method of classifying the road network, or understanding it and differentiating it. And very much historically, the A and B parts of the road networks were kind of a national approach for consistency for route numbering. What we tend to do when we bring on new roads and with new road adoptions, very much our kind of residential roads and housing areas tend to be unclassified roads. There is some of the data that we do provide to members. We can make further differentiation between unclassified rural and unclassified urban, but typically unclassified urban roads will be our residential roads, a kind of lower flow roads. If we were looking at classifying a new road, that was a bit more strategic or had a higher flow in an urban area, we'd look at a C classification for that. If we're looking at recategorising roads that are already in A and B, we need to do that through negotiation with Transport Scotland. So to answer your question, yes, generally the residential roads will be unclassified urban.
And my concern there is it's the same way as an unclassified road in the middle of the country, which may be a single track road, which is very, very rarely used, whereas obviously the ones within the residential areas are probably some of the heaviest used roads in our entire network, and yet we're joining the two together. I think we should look at a way of actually separating the two, and that would give us a more meaningful estimate of what work's required on the housing estate roads.
Yes, I mean that data is readily available. If members would like to see that within the strategic commissions, we can certainly provide that additional data set, splitting on urban and rural classifications.
Quite happy to do that, yeah. Okay. Ian?
Thanks, Chair. Can I ask two things? Why is the Wigton area settlements so high in comparison to the others? I mean, if you consider the fact that there have been 83 claims settled and repudiated and 73 in Nithsdale, and yet the claim rate there is under 1,000. It's an awful lot higher in the Wigton area, and you look at Annandale and Eskdale, 138, and it's only 5,000. What's the problem in the Wigton area? And the other thing, if I could ask, is what is the procedure for adoption of roads? If you build a new settlement of houses, the contractor builds a road, how do we go about actually adopting it? And because my concern is that if you have unadopted roads for any length, and you get a situation like we had earlier this year, we're not clearing unadopted roads, which is clearly unacceptable. So how quickly do we go in there and make sure that the roads get adopted?
On the claims data, again, Charles has explained how we just want to extend that based on kind of feedback from the last Planning House Environment Services Committee in terms of giving a better split on the data. On the data that's before members in terms of number of claims repudiated, settled, and the value of those claims, what tends to happen at any one point in the year those figures change as the number of claims obviously move and values are associated. Final claim settlements are made or claims aren't settled, and there's no financial cost against that. So it is a bit of a moving figure. Even looking back at last year's figures, as these are, taking a snapshot at time now, the figures might change because some of last year's claims might have been settled or some might have been closed down and there would be no financial value against them. So that is effectively a kind of snapshot at the time, at the end of that 12-month period of the position on the number of claims and the value of the claims. What tends to happen is, though, that the claims that are settled, there could have been a lot of claims made, but they take a long time to settle, so the value isn't there. Or it could be that certainly the claims have different values when they are finally settled. And I reckon in the Wigton one, there's probably 1 or 2 claims there that have quite a high value in terms of the settlement that was made. And that might be associated with, an injury accident particularly would result in a higher value of settlement. So there isn't a direct correlation between the number of claims and the actual value that we've settled in a year. On the road adoptions, the process there is that we have a road network that we manage, that we identify, and we publish the list of public roads through the council's website. As required under the Road Scotland Act, and that is effectively the public road network that the council manage and maintain. And if roads in the region are not on that, they're either maintained by Transport Scotland, Scottish Government as a trunk road network or the motorway network. And other roads are private roads, and there are any number of significant numbers of private roads throughout the region. In new build situations under legislation, developers have to go through a construction consent process as well as a planning application process, and to some extent those are kind of parallel processes in ensuring that roads, any new roads that are built to a maintainable, adoptable standard. And it is a requirement through the construction consent process and the Road Scotland Act that where a developer seeks for the council to adopt a road and it is to an adoptable standard, the council will adopt that road, and that is a requirement. Any new roads that the council build, by being in the nature of the Roads Authority, are automatically assumed to be adopted. So what that kind of leaves us with is there are a number of private roads that aren't adopted and they're not to an adoptable standard. And that's a position where individuals have in the past historically maintained their own length of road, usually short lengths of road, into a number of properties. Or we have roads and footways within the control of possibly an entity like a housing partnership, particularly more on the footways side. But we don't, as an authority, adopt roads that are not to an adoptable standard. And there is historically a certain number of roads that just don't fall within that category of the list of public roads.
Thanks very much for indulgence. So do we have any powers where you have, say, a private developer who has created a number of houses and obviously the infrastructure that goes with it? Do we have any powers to ensure that they do bring them up to adoptable standards so that the residents are not left in the situation I described earlier on, where you have heavy snowfall and we're not clearing those roads?
Yeah, certainly, as far as powers are concerned, what normally happens in these instances, and I think perhaps the ones in the Wigton area that you relate to, are that the speed of construction of the housing isn't necessarily, it doesn't go in accordance with the length of the road that's going to be adopted. And quite often we've, in some instances, put forward a phased approach where we've adopted part of the road. I know in the Wigton area this was something that was raised at area committee. We looked at the performance report that's before us, and since then I've actually undertook to have a review of all the roads that have got construction consents and have not yet been adopted, and see just exactly how we can push that on. There's no legislation that says that local authorities should push these on and push the developer to actually bring them up to adoptable standard when the construction's still ongoing. But I think we want to take a more proactive approach and see what we can do and speed up the adoption process. In the instance where the developer has probably got all the houses occupied and has not brought the road up to a reasonable standard, there is a bond that's in place, and there are circumstances where we're allowed to call in the bond and carry out the work ourselves. So, as I say, there is a review going on at the moment to see just exactly what the current position is and what's outstanding in terms of construction consents where the roads have remained unadopted.
Jim?
Thanks, Chair. On page 31, the top box, it says optimise management and routine repairs of all structures. Work schedules, routine minor maintenance, generally prepared by geographic area following inspection. I think that's a wise thing to do, and I'm pleased to see that. But if you go to page 27, the second bottom box, it talks about the road asset management plan, and due to workload pressures, this element has not been progressed. Now, that would probably address the issues that Councillor Lever raised, whereby we would be determining the priority that a particular road would be addressed in terms of whether or not it was an urban, whether it was a bus route, etc., etc. And I would hope that by the next time we get a report that will have been implemented, and we can use that to best assess how we prioritise all of the roads in the region.
Do we have a timescale on that at all?
I think the position is that we do have a roads asset management plan, but it is quite dated, and there's always been an understanding that we would, through the improvement plan that we developed with the RAMP, the roads asset management plan, that we would deal with a refresh process. We're actively involved with the Society of Chief Officers of Transportation Scotland, SCOTS, running a number of working groups where all roads authorities get together, and we tend to work in a cluster, a kind of working group, where in our geographic area we're taking forward the development of the roads asset management plans. And there's a number of actions that fall out of that we're organising, we're actually working on at the present time in terms of refreshing the RAMP document. What we want to bring to members first, and we're trying to get along to the January Planning House Environment Service Committee, is our options appraisal document, so that we would look at the maintenance, the condition of the carriageway, and effectively some of the interventions that we can offer to members, and then we'll come forward with the schemes, the detailed schemes for the following financial year, the next financial year. So over a period of time, we're working on building up our documents that will then let us refresh the RAMP totally and reference back our kind of option appraisal process, the valuation work that we have to do through whole of government accounts that feeds in with carriageway valuations and structures valuations. So over time and over the next year, we're working through that process, and we will have a refreshed RAMP document, roads asset management plan, and we will have a refreshed valuation process and options appraisal reporting system for members.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for indulgence. Happy with that. Just remind Stephen that we also have the set local priorities, and I think that was set here, whereby we decided that we would want staff to take into account just what I've referred to, busy urban routes, bus routes, etc., etc. And I hope that will form part of the document that will come back to us.
Any other questions on that? Ronnie?
It's just a simple question. It's the first box, the target and the value. The target was 70% and the value is 71.2, and it's clear from there that the Stewartry and the Wigton have put above, whereas Annandale and Nithsdale have well, not suffered, but well, yeah, maybe suffered, I don't know. Now, anecdotally, I've been told that people who travel around the region say once you leave Annandale and Nithsdale and get towards the west, the roads improve. Now, that statistic might bear that anecdotal evidence out. So I just wondered why Annandale and Eskdale and the Nithsdale seem to not be on target compared to the other two parts of the region.
Certainly, I can't really comment on the precise nature of the figures. Certainly, there's no move to actually treat any area differently. I look after all four areas, and they're all treated fairly. It might be some geographical feature that I'm not considering at the moment. Certainly with Dumfries Town Centre, it comes with its own problems. The length of the road network is exactly the same, almost exactly the same in each area. So I'm afraid I can't really comment on that. Statistics are statistics, and certainly we do not treat any areas differently.
Right, page 29, the Structures Maintenance and Management Service Commission. It's 29 to page 32. Any questions on that? No. Last chance? Good. You're obviously getting tired out. Okay, if we turn to page 32 and 33, and the Lighting Maintenance and Management Service Commission. Ronnie?
Yeah, I can't see it in here, or maybe I've missed it, but we spent some money to move to LED and to, I've forgotten the other one, terminology. Is it here? Oh yeah. Yeah, well, that's fine, it's there. But just how successful has it been? I mean, I know I've done some in Annan and I'm sure elsewhere. There was some criticism about the arcing. You know, that the LEDs do an arc and leave wee dark spots. And I raised it at the time, and I was assured that maybe that would then necessitate some additional columns. I just wondered how that was going.
In terms of the Spend to Save programme, one of the modifications to the Commission that we're bringing to 12th of November to this committee will actually identify a separate line in terms of the percentage completion on that LED dimmable lighting programme, the move for the energy efficiencies, the Spend to Save scheme. And what effectively we're trying to do is, I think we're aiming for about 12.5%, so that over 8 years we would have completed the refurbishment programme. I think we're quite keen not to rush forward and to take the additional, I think in terms of the progress, it's a kind of steady progress so that we can actually look back and see what the improvements have been. I think certainly the feedback we've had, and I certainly did see some very positive feedback from the community of Moffat particularly, in terms of they were quite keen in moving the whole town towards a kind of dark skies position, and they were very positive about the new lighting where it had been installed there. I hadn't heard of particular problems, but I would imagine with any sort of refurbishment programme, if we do enough work, there'll be some areas where quirks will come through that maybe require a revisit or a redesign. But generally, I'm getting fairly positive feedback on it. I think the other reason for not rushing forward with the programme as well is that the technology, particularly the LED side, in terms of the life expectancy of some of the products, seems to be improving as we move through time. And I think we're quite keen not to move in and change everything as quickly as possible and use all the kind of current technology. The other problem that gives us is that maybe 30 years' time or 25 years' time, suddenly a lot of the lamps are now ready for replacement, and that gives us a bit of a blip in terms of managing the maintenance at some time in the future. But I think the feedback has been fairly positive generally on the programme.
Jim?
Thanks, Chair. It was just to give a bit of positive feedback. I know the whole of One Look Head has been done, and I had a lengthy discussion with a senior member of the technical staff, and the logic and the reason behind that was it's a remote communicate, it's difficult to get to, it's expensive to service. I've also had feedback from the village committee, they're delighted. So all in all, it's been a very positive experience for them, and it's something that the council are doing right, which is good.
Any other questions on that commission? No? Okay, can we turn to page 35 and 36, which is on the Roads Network Management Service? Do we have any questions on that commission? Last call, yeah. Okay. Next commission is on page 37 to 40, which is the Winter Service. Any questions? Ronnie?
I know we had a couple of bad winters and we had a sort of, we had a couple of bad winters, and then we sort of had that wee working group looking at, and then we had that sort of sudden snowfall that nobody expected earlier in the year. I think Councillor Dick referred to. Some of the stuff we can anticipate and some we can't. I mean, that was an unexpected event and quite a dramatic one. The question I'm asking is that obviously we set money aside based on 2 previous years. We had 2 bad winters back to back. Does anybody know what the winter's going to be this year?
There's a new administration, so the sun will be shining, but you won't hold me to that come December time, I suspect. Anybody know what the weather's going to be like this year? Actually, there is a long-term forecast that's predicting snow at the end of this month, but I think there are, that we do build in the whole issue of reserves, etc., in order to accommodate that. I mean, if there's a bad winter, we have an overspend, and that's what additional reserves are there for. But I don't know if, gentlemen, you want to add to.
I think in terms of the forecast, certainly the feedback that we get from the Met Office, they very much forecast on an accurate forecast for the next kind of 5 days out. And beyond that, when you talk to meteorologists, the probabilities just become, the numbers, the mathematical models they use are just fairly, I know. I think, but it is right in terms of planning for winter, and we certainly do a lot of kind of back analysis, and we participate in a project nationally where we look at, particularly when we ran out of salt, and we had problems over the 2009, 10, 11 winters with salt supplies, and we certainly did enter into a period where nationally we do a lot more analysis on costs and the amount of salt. Most authorities tend to run with what they call a typical winter budget, and they do have backup mechanisms, as the Chair alluded to, in terms of they will dip into either discrete reserves, or if it's more than that for events, they will dip into general reserves within the authority, and that tends to be how most roads authorities run. And certainly looking at the outturn costs, they quite often, in most years, the outturn costs exceed what's actually been budgeted for. Putting on the other side, probably the most critical thing is that we actually plan to have enough salt to deal with these sort of events, and we don't get back into a kind of national shortage situation that we experienced over a couple of the winters. And we certainly, our position within D&G is that we aim to treat our supplies in each of the operational areas are to cover 50 days of normal treatment of weather. And then we do have mechanisms in place where that reduces in terms of the volume of salt that we have. We look at that and are focused on that in terms of managing the service. And a reduced service, ultimately, as we did have to enter into a number of years ago, would be undertaken. But the plan is we have plenty of salt, and that we ensure that the suppliers have plenty in the strategic reserves, as does Transport Scotland within their own strategic reserve for the whole of Scotland.
Jim? Just a throwaway line, Chair. I see on page 38, 2.3, treatment costs associated with adverse weather affecting schools. I would hope that wouldn't be very much at all. I see there's no figure attached to that, because it's clear our land and street services staff using council equipment, council vehicles, and if it's for a reporting mechanism, that's fine. But I'm sure that it's again a positive outcome from discussions that we're now using staff in a productive way and in a constructive way, and I don't think there should be very much a figure associated with that, given that it's already equipment we own and staff that are employed by us.
Okay, thanks for that, Jim. Anybody else on the winter service? Another one running up about the weather this time, no?
No, it's a serious question this time, Chair. It was just, we spent a lot of time with community consultation and community resilience, and I know in Annan, the Annan Community Council there, were heavily involved in identifying salt bins and spreaders and stuff. We didn't get hit that bad snow that some of the region got hit this year, earlier this year. So that we haven't had a real chance to test this out in Angra. But the feedback, so it's a positive thing, the feedback we're getting from local communities is they welcomed this additional thing. I just wonder how much it costs to maintain it. I don't know if it's, replenish the bins or just somebody checking the equipment, because we have spreaders, that are mechanical. I just wondered what the cost that might be for the region.
We've got page 40 of Appendix 1. We've actually got numbers. What we don't have is values in terms of what it's cost us to provide that equipment, but we've got the numbers of the salt bins that we've put out, the spreaders and the shovels as part of the Community Resilience Programme. It was kind of separate funding that was allocated following the particularly the first severe winter that we had. And this was one of the council's responses to that, and kind of came out of the working group that was set up when we actually reviewed the primary and secondary routes, the treatment routes, the carriageways at the time. There is still funding available for that. If there are communities that want to take up that offer, that's still possible. There's a certain amount of contact made, certainly through our colleagues in community safety, major emergency scheme colleagues, in the community resilience, and that information is certainly put out there, and I believe it's still available on the website if equipment wants to be taken up by community groups and used in that way. And if people want to feed back to us with problems with maintenance, as you say, it is, it's probably worth it. They check it in advance of winter, and if they haven't had a couple of mild winters and have never used the equipment, if there's problems with maintenance, we can still take that on board. We still carry spare equipment, and we can run repairs or do swap equipment and take defective equipment back. I think we will continue to monitor just to see how the funding goes on. Effectively, it's a reserve we carry forward each year, a small amount of money, but it has maintained that service over the past 3 years. And James, you just want to cut in with some detail here.
One of the challenges with it is that obviously we're providing the equipment and the spreaders particularly free of charge, and human nature being as it is, when you get something free of charge and you haven't had to buy it, you might not look after it as well as perhaps if you'd bought it. We intend writing out to the communities that have equipment, asking them to check it over. And I think this time round we're keen to assist people, communities that have taken spreaders, and make sure that they're operating again for this year if they have any problems. But I think we need to take quite a firm line that, maintaining the equipment, cleaning it once it's been used, storing it in a dry place is how it's going to last for a number of years. Coming to us each year and saying, oh, well, it's jammed up because we didn't bother to clean the salt out of it. Salt's obviously not going to be very good for maintaining the equipment. So it's a little bit of carrot and a little bit of stick, and hopefully we can work with the communities. But we don't want to be having to replace spreaders each year because they're not well looked after. So.
Thanks, Ronnie. I think the clue's in the name, community resilience, and certainly Ronnie, one of the things Ronnie's been doing as leader is trying to get around as many members of staff as possible and speak to them. And I was struck when I tagged along to his first visit to the community safety team, and the way in which we're actually leading the rest of Scotland when it comes to some of these community initiatives. It'd be interesting to see, I suppose, as you say, when they're tested in anger, just exactly how resilient it is, but certainly we are leading the way in that front. George.
Thanks, Chair. Just at the bottom of page 39, actually, just, the very last paragraph of the very last section, just to pay a wee bit of tribute to a lot of the subcontractors who, during that spell at the end of March, when a lot of side roads were totally blocked with snow, and a lot of subcontractors, including farmers with big shovels, got out and actually cleared a lot of these side roads, and without them, I think we would still have been, not still have been a bit of a pickle, but a bit of a pickle would have lasted a good time longer, I think, just to pay a bit of tribute to them.
We would agree with those sentiments, George. I think what's interesting from the community resilience side is the way in which those areas are ahead of maybe the rest of the region when it comes to preparing, because they've obviously had those issues that we had in March, and they've really taken up the community resilience agenda, whereas maybe other areas that haven't had the bad weather are a wee bit slower to come on board. I think those groups appreciate the work that was taking place in the community and the importance of that work. Okay, do we have any other questions on the winter service? No? Okay, if we can turn to the next commission, page 41 to 42, burial grounds and interment service. Anybody got any questions in this area? Ronnie?
Just because it's and I'm sure the officers will know, it's been heavily exercised in Annandale and Eskdale, this when it was raised at the area committee on Wednesday. We, as an area committee, asked for some facts and figures based around cut and lift for burial grounds, so there was options. We got that on Wednesday, and I thank the officers very much. We've had several site visits looking at cemeteries, mostly in the Annan area, but equally it'll affect other parts. We've got a good handle on pick and mix, if that's the right word, of options for us. We're working with the area committee and the Annandale and Eskdale team, looking at something that we can bring back to the centre. And I know it goes through the budget process, but every group is aware now of what it costs, what the aspirations are of the communities. So it's a good piece of work that could be shared with the rest of the region. I'm not sure how that will factor in. We'll bring it to our group or groups to look at as maybe a potential budget line once we get the options, because some of the options aren't as expensive as you might think. So this is the maintenance of the burial grounds rather than the burials. It's been festering away in Annan, especially for the last 2 or 3 years. But I think we've maybe got a resolution to it. So I just want to publicly thank all the officers involved in the Annandale and Eskdale area for the excellent way they got the report out to us on Wednesday.
Anybody got any other points on this commission? No? Okay. Can we turn to the next one on page 43 and 44, which is street cleansing? No? No questions on that? Last chance? No? Happy? Okie dokie. Page 45 to 47, public convenience service. No? All happy on that? Final chance? Oh, can't miss an opportunity, Ronnie.
We went through all this a couple of years ago about manned, unmanned and all that, and I'm just reading here that the cost of the attended facilities Annandale and Eskdale is 2.71 pence. Just remind me which ones are attended in Annandale and Eskdale, please.
Is that a trick question or just a catches out the last question? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Which ones are still attended?
Oh, sorry. Annan, the third biggest town, because it's recorded, lost its attended toilet a couple of years ago now, and I just wondered which ones are now still attended in Annandale and Eskdale.
Stephen?
We do have the data, we just don't have it here with us, unfortunately. I apologise for that.
Circulate that to Ronnie for...
So send it on.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, any final questions on the commission? Your last opportunity? No? We're all content? Thank you very much then for your indulgence, and thank you, gentlemen, for answering questions. Obviously, there's quite a lot of overlap, I think, on what the DGFirst Management Committee role is, so I appreciate your indulgence on that. I think, Stephen, you indicated that the refreshed commissions would be coming up on the 12th of November, so that's obviously going to be an important role for us as a strategic committee to look at those commissions and be clear what we're asking DGFirst and others to provide on our behalf. Is there anything else you would like to add to the report, gentlemen? No? Okay, folks. Okay, folks, I don't have any other business, so thank you very much for treating your new chair so gently in the same way that I always treat chairs from your position at the back, and look forward to that continuing in the months ahead.